Supplemental sets are essentially a foot race for our heroes. Everyone moves forward, but not all at the same pace. Today, in the first of a 2-video series, I am arguing that the Mechanologist class, or Dash, may have been the biggest winner from Dynasty. Unless, of course, it was Brute. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. Thanks so much for tuning in for this little series, essentially debating who the big winner from the big Dynasty foot race was, right? I like to look at it that way because every hero gets toys, every hero moves forward, but they don't necessarily move forward at the same pace. You might lose ground against somebody who you were ahead of. You might gain ground on somebody you were ahead of. That's why I like to kind of look at it that way. If you guys recall, we did this back in Everfest. And today I have the task that I think is the easier of the two tasks, which is arguing why Mechanologist probably was the winner from this set. At the very least, they got the big mech, so I think they won the cool factor, I think. But let's go ahead and go into some certain discussions. Now, there's no point to go through necessarily every card, because, like, the blessings, come on, like, let's be honest. But going on into the Hanabi Blaster, so this is the one that I think there was a lot of hype about, and I think as now that we've gotten it on the table, probably not as big of a game changer as we thought it might be. The fact that, you know, it's hard to get them on, so I think most people at this point have really defaulted to, in the Boosty Boost build, obviously I'm talking about here, right? Most people have pretty much defaulted to going back to Pistol. I do still think that this just straight up replaces Talishar. I think that's right. That said, I get it, right? I get it. It's not as good as we thought it was going to be. Right, so the Galvanic Bender is cool for the mech. Otherwise, I don't think it replaces the Goliath Gauntlets. I just don't think it does. The Goliath Gauntlets just add too much value for what you're trying to do, especially combined with like a Tekla Pounder or something like that. Pulse Wave Harpoon, we've already talked about how I really think this is one of the best cards to come out of the set, except for maybe the next one for Mechanologist. Even if you're not using Pulse Wave Harpoon as its effect, when its effect is really, really, really good, right? So when this stacks a hero, they reveal X cards in their hand, where that's the number of times you boosted. Choose a card with defense less than X and force them to play, right? So let you go in and snipe a little trick that they might be holding in their hand if they are not on the tank up strategy. But at very least, Pulse Wave Harpoon is one more, an additional 1/4. Now this is only obviously available in the red, but High Speed Impact is something that continues to this day to see play. It's just one more that helps you drive for your maximum velocity, and I think it's a very strong card. I don't really have to justify that. It's very clear that that's been in the lists that we've seen. There's really no reason for it not to be. It's crazy good. All right, moving on to BIOS Update, another very, very, very strong card. It's a lot of, we were still using, the other 0-3s, right? We had the Rotary Ram, and then we had Locked and Loaded. Those were seeing their heads pop into lists occasionally because they're good on the pump. But BIOS Update's just straight better, right? It's just strictly, it's not necessarily strictly better because it does something different, but it's way more utility. It's definitely in there. And a lot of times you're coming for, this with Tekla Pounder and a boost, you're coming for a Gauntlet or something. You can come for like 12. It's pretty good. And if you just happen to do what you don't want to do, which is boost away one of your items, guess what? You get your item. Now, I don't want to ignore the mech. I am not convinced the mech's awesome. I think it's great, but I don't think this is what pushed Dash forward, right? It's really some of those other cards we've talked about. But one I skipped over, and I openly admit, when I read this, I was like, oh, that's good, but probably doesn't fit in. And oh, how wrong I was. So Scramble Pulse, specifically red, I can see the argument for blue also. I don't think you need the blue, but the red, right? So equipment have -1 while defending on this combat chain. So it's a 2/5. So that's on curve with a lot of things, right? It's no throttle, but remember throttle has no text. This has no effects. That seems pretty fair. And I think it's pretty fair to say that we've been seeing Scramble Pulse take the combustible courier slot. I've seen the one that won Hong Kong, Hong Kong, Singapore. The recent battle hardened there, I'll throw the list up just to clarify in editing. Sorry about that. But they were not running combustible courier. I also saw a recent list from none other than Matt Rogers with his updated list. It was on a thing on the CFBs, right? Everybody's favorite. He also was not running combustible courier. So that's falling out of favor, I think, largely because of Scramble Pulse. And I didn't really wrap my head around how good this card was. And I'm not really sure why, but I get it now. Combine this, so Scramble Pulse into T-Bone is just dirty. Scramble Pulse into something else, into a Magnetic Shockwave, is just dirty. I've actually had it pulled off to me where somebody Scramble Pulsed, T-Boned, and then Magnetic'd me. Stuck out 3 of my equipment at -1. That's dirty. That's really good. This card's really strong. This card's really strong. I openly admit I did not give it the credit that it needed. And then we go down into the commons. So what's interesting about the commons here is they don't necessarily further the game plan for CC. I think we've already, for the most part, had the discussion about the good cards for CC. However, in other formats, the Hyperdriver is the thing to use. And by other formats, I'm pretty much talking commoner. Like, let's just lay it out there. That said, Jumpstart and Hyperdriver. I mean, the Hyperdriver thing, yeah, you just need more. Hyperdriver is what it is. You just need more of those for the mech, so that makes sense. But Jumpstart's really solid. Urgent Delivery is a good closer in many cases. They're perfectly fine for the commoner format. Now, does that really push does commoner format make my point on why Mechanologist is winning? I don't think so. But overall, if you look at Dynasty, the advancement of Mechanologist in basically every format was pretty significant. I don't think that what happened in this set pushes Mech. In Commoner, for example, I don't think it pushes Mech above Icelander. I think Icelander's still the dominant force in Commoner. But there's some pretty hot tricks in this set. Absolutely hot tricks in this set. I mean, even Crankshaft, right, for a Commoner. Like, I don't think you're playing that into anything else, but Crankshaft, Jumpstart goes right into the Commoner decks if you can fit it in, right? And now we have this problem. Mech has this problem, right? Where they've got too much stuff. Doesn't suck, right? It always used to be you just basically crammed every boost card you could find in there for the most part. Well, not anymore. And some of these alternatives are very, very, very strong. So that's my case. I do think that if you really look, I mean, it's not like Dash was not good before, right? No, nobody's saying that. But if you really look at what Dash gained compared to a lot of the other classes, I think it's pretty fair to say that she gained ground and pulled ahead depending on where you were in the race with her. And I don't think it's any secret that she's going to continue to see top 8s. She's way flexible. She's very fun. She's an awesome hero. She got some good toys. So let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that Mechanologist won? Or maybe was it Brute? Check in tomorrow for my argument on why Brute might have actually won the Dynasty race. Thanks for joining, folks, and go Commando.